Victoria Chen Morrison had once been captivated by Marcus's charm, his confidence, his powerful presence. She had fallen in love with him at the edge of ambition. But as their marriage entered its final chapter, it wasn't his confidence that stood out, but his cruelty. On this particular windy afternoon in Manhattan, everything had led to this moment, the one that would change her life forever. They were supposed to finalize the divorce papers, let the marriage die in silence and part ways. Instead, Victoria's life cracked open on a public sidewalk, her world split by the sound of a slap. The shock echoed in the cameras that flashed around them, recording the moment for the world to see. Victoria, 38 weeks pregnant, didn't expect a man she once trusted to strike her in front of dozens of strangers, but that's exactly what happened. His hand moved faster than reason, and for the briefest second, everything stood still before reality flooded in. The sting on her cheek wasn't the only wound. The cameras, the phones, the dozens of lenses watching her every move were almost too much to bear. But there was one camera that made all the difference. The one held by Nadia Bennett, a lawyer who had been in the right place at the right time, ready to capture something that would demand justice. As the slap echoed through the streets of Manhattan, a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Victoria could barely process the pain as the world seemed to freeze. She felt every eye upon her, and then she felt the pull of her phone. $20,000, money she had worked for and saved, was gone from their joint account. Marcus's eyes flickered, but she didn't back down. She didn't retreat, and then, with the slap still ringing in her ears, the words slipped out. Where did it go? Inside the confines of their penthouse, the tension shifted. Victoria's cheek burned as the cold air from the taxi punctuated the silence. Marcus, ever the stoic, was already dialing a lawyer. He was smooth, calculating. His mind was already working on damage control. But for Victoria, something shifted. She could hear the baby inside her, the flutter of life growing within her. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about something deeper. Back inside the penthouse, Marcus dismissed her pain with his usual cold efficiency. We'll fix this, he said, attempting to soothe her with words that held no real comfort. It was a mistake, Victoria. I'm under pressure. You know how hard this is for both of us. He continued talking, justifying his actions, but Victoria's mind was elsewhere. Her phone buzzed again, pulling her back into reality. The first message read, "If you are Victoria, save this number. I am an attorney." I recorded everything. My name is Nadia Bennett. The weight of the words settled in her chest like an anchor. For the first time, there was someone in her corner, a voice that could amplify the truth. As she stared at the message, Marcus continued to speak, trying to regain control. The cameras, the media, will handle it. You need to trust me. But Victoria could barely hear him over the growing roar of injustice in her mind. He had taken her trust, her dignity, and now he was trying to take her silence. The days that followed were a whirlwind. The news cycle exploded with footage of Marcus's slap. It was everywhere, on social media, in tabloids, and across television screens. The world was watching. But Victoria wasn't just a passive observer anymore. The truth was out. No amount of PR could bury the undeniable evidence of his actions. As Marcus's team scrambled to control the narrative, Victoria stood strong. She realized that the slap wasn't just a physical assault. It was a revelation. A revelation of everything he had done behind closed doors, of the financial manipulations, the emotional manipulation, the disregard for her as an equal partner. The law firm representing her was swift, and they filed a motion for a public apology. But Victoria was no longer interested in Marcus's apology. What mattered now was the truth. And she had a lawyer, Nadia Bennett, who was ready to fight for her. The judge presiding over their case, Judge Warren, was known for his unflinching commitment to justice. He listened to the testimony, to the evidence, and to the emotional toll it had taken on Victoria. And when Marcus's lawyer attempted to offer a polished, rehearsed apology, Judge Warren did not flinch. Instead, he ordered something Marcus hadn't anticipated, a televised apology. Victoria's heart swelled with a strange mix of pride and anger. The apology would be public. There would be no safe place for Marcus to hide. It was the first real moment of accountability in a marriage built on lies. The day of the televised apology was as much a moment of redemption for Victoria as it was a reckoning for Marcus. The world watched as he stood before the camera, his usual polished demeanor replaced with visible discomfort. The apology was stiff, rehearsed, but the message was clear. He had been caught. And the audience would hold him accountable. Victoria, sitting with Nadia in the front row of the courtroom, couldn't help but feel a sense of victory. This wasn't just about her. This was about every woman who had been silenced, every person who had suffered in the shadows. This was a moment for all of them. Marcus's public apology became a symbol of something larger, of the courage it took for Victoria to stand up and demand respect. She had been silenced for too long, but now the world knew the truth. In the weeks that followed, the public's view of Marcus shifted. Once admired for his wealth and power, he was now seen in a different light. The media tore apart his carefully crafted image, and his reputation began to crumble. But Victoria, she found peace. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was the one being blamed. She wasn't the one at fault. The strength she had shown in the face of public humiliation was a testament to her character. She was ready to move on. The divorce was finalized, but it wasn't just an end. It was a new beginning. For the first time in a long time, Victoria felt like she could breathe. The weight of the past had been lifted, and she could now focus on what truly mattered: herself and her child. Months later, Victoria looked back on everything that had transpired. The slap, the apology, the courtroom drama. It had all led her here, to a place of empowerment and independence. Her life was no longer defined by Marcus. It was her own. She had taken control, reclaimed her voice, and now she was building something new: a business, a future, and most importantly, a sense of self-worth she had long forgotten. The world would never forget the moment Marcus slapped her, but for Victoria, it was just a chapter. And the story was far from over.